Chandler had uncovered some enormous specimens. They belonged to Titanus walleri, a killer bird that had once lived in South America. Its fossils would help him solve many puzzling questions about these giant predatory birds. Chandler compared the bones to those of Andogolornis. Then he set off for Chicago to examine the fossils brought back to the Field Museum by Elmer Riggs. He was given special access to the original specimens collected 70 years ago. Chandler soon made a remarkable discovery. Titanus walleri was even larger than Andogolornis. Each bone and fragment dredged from the Santa Fe River was at least 20% larger than the specimens Riggs had found. Titanus walleri was enormous, a giant among giants. It would have stood 6 feet tall, but Chandler had learned something even more important from these bones. Titanus was the key to solving the mystery of the missing wing bone of Andogolornis. In birds, the arm and hand bones have become the wing. Upper bones can tuck under the lower bones, allowing them to fold their wings. Chandler now had a wing bone of a killer bird, but it was very peculiar.
This is the fused hand bones of Titanus walleri. And the interesting thing with this element is that it now has a flatted proximal end, which would not allow the bone to be tucked back under the ulna radius, or the lower limb bone.
As soon as he saw this unusual bone, Chandler knew he had the missing link in the story of Andogolornis and the killer birds. Chandler's discovery of the Titanus wingbone shed new light on killer bird anatomy. This led him to re-examine the current beliefs about what these birds looked like and how they lived. They were not just flightless birds with vestigial wings. They had developed a unique kind of wing, unlike that of any bird living or extinct. Chandler believes their wings were modified to function like powerful arms and were used to hold down and manipulate their prey. These killing machines took over South America with a reign of terror that lasted for 20 million years. We now know one of the reasons for their great success. In an odd twist of bird anatomy, their wings developed into lethal weapons, which made them fearsome predators. They sacrificed the ability to fly in order to become more efficient killers. But there were others who sacrificed nothing at all. Soaring high above was another enormous predator, the largest bird of prey ever to have darkened the skies. Today, the skies of Argentina are patrolled by the condor. With a wingspan of 8 feet, it is the largest flying bird that exists. The condor rarely kills its food. It's a vulture that feeds on the dead. But millions of years ago, these skies belonged to a mammoth hunter that swept in from out of thin air. Argentavis magnificens was the largest bird that ever lived. Its wingspan was 27 feet, more than 3 times that of a condor. Argentavis was the size of a small plane. Dr. Rosando Pascual of the La Plata Museum in Buenos Aires made the incredible discovery of this flying giant. At first, he couldn't believe that these enormous bones came from a creature that could fly.
Encontramos estos huesos. Por el espesor del hueso.
While searching for fossil mammals, we found these bones. The thinness of the bones made us think that they were from a bird, but their sheer size made us think it was impossible that a bird so big could fly. But after digging up the rest of the bones, there was no disputing the evidence. This was definitely a bird that could fly. This is a humerus from the wing, and this is a humerus belonging to a condor. Look at the size relationship. If the proportions of this wing bone were maintained in the rest of the body, the wing must have had a span of some 9 meters. Can you imagine a bird with a wingspan of 9 meters that can fly? Argentavis weighed 170 pounds and stood 6 feet tall. Flying for this gargantuan bird would seem to be an impossible feat. Yet somehow, it did get off the ground. Argentavis, believed to be a relative of the condor, may have taken off in a similar fashion. The condor stands up, unfolds its wings, and faces into the wind. A strong gust provides the power for liftoff. But for a giant like Argentavis, the wind would have to be tremendous. Where would this wind come from? When Argentavis owned these skies, there were no mountains to inhibit the flow of air from the sea. Argentavis magnificens would have waited for a powerful gust to launch it into the air. There, it became a predator, hunting for a victim. Or was it a scavenger, looking for a carcass? Scientists assumed it was a scavenger like the condor. If so, it would have had a bald head, an adaptation which prevents scavengers from getting rotting flesh caked on their feathers as they feed. But recent analysis of Argentavis's head bones reveals it had a long hooked beak and jaws like those of modern birds of prey. Not a scavenger, but a fearsome predator. Argentavis would swoop down from the skies, carry off its prey, and swallow it whole. Since it was a predator, it was clear that Argentavis had a feathered head. The picture of this giant was now complete. Killer birds ruled the land and sky, but they too had powerful forces to reckon with. Something was happening in South America, something that would threaten every living creature. The formation of the Panamanian land bridge over millions of years created a new world. Animals could now cross in both directions, intermingling and competing. But that was only part of the story. 2 continents had collided, an upheaval that altered the earth. Over time, the land, the climate, the vegetation would radically change. The days of the killer birds were numbered. Some believe they died out because of competition with animals that migrated from the north. Others believe they simply had nothing to eat. Unable to adapt to the new environment, their prey became extinct. And soon after, so did the killer birds. Though the South American members of this family, like Andogolornis, may have died out, the story of these giants was not over yet. Some birds, like Titanus walleri, used the land bridge to migrate to North America and escape extinction for a while.
With the evolution of this group, they in fact were even more successful, and its pinnacle species, Titanus walleri, in fact made the connection from South America to North America, lived in Florida approximately 2 million years, competing side by side with other mammalian predators, and did very well for itself throughout that whole period.
Paleontologists like Bob Chandler continue to search for more clues to a mysterious world where mammoth birds once terrorized this land. Today, these giants are gone. Yet their descendants are still among us. We can only imagine what evolution holds in store for them. Might there still come a time when killer birds will return to power once again?